Hi everyone, welcome to my channel again. In this video, I'll be doing two examples, and both examples are related to a topic called ratio. These two questions, they were asked in the Hong Kong Open Examination, which all Hong Kong high school students had to take a few years ago. So without further ado, let's start working on example number one. Example number one, you are given two proportion statements. Okay, the first one and the second one. Why don't I call the first one as proportion statement number one, and this is proportion statement number two. And on this whiteboard, I've drawn out three columns, okay? Each column is for one of the variables, A, B, and C, okay? And I've put in some numbers in there already. These numbers correspond to the proportion statement that are given in the question. Proportion statement number one, you're given the ratio of A to B, 3 to 4, which I've shown here. Okay, so this is proportion statement number one. And the second proportion statement is the ratio of B to C is 2 to 5. So this 2 here corresponds to variable B. So that's why I put a number 2 in this B column. And this 5 here corresponds to variable C. So that's why I put 5 in the column C here. So here what I'm doing is what I called alignment. So I'm putting the numbers that are corresponding to one variable within the same column. In this column B, you can see I've put in two numbers, 4 and 2, which come from here. Proportion statement number 1, 4. Proportion statement number 2, 2 here. Okay, so this is proportion statement number 2. So this question is asking you to find the ratio of A squared to C squared. So to find this, you need to find the ratio of A to C. But you don't know the ratio of A to C directly because you're only given the ratios of A to B and B to C separately. So how do you find the ratio of A to C? You basically need to find the ratio of A to B to C. This is your intermediate goal, okay? To find the ratio of A to B to C. With these two proportion statements, how do you find the ratio of A, B, and C? You need to look for the column which contains more than one numbers. So in this column here, B column, it has two numbers, 4 and 2. But the idea is that you need to make both numbers to be the same, so then afterwards you can compare A, B, and C directly. So how do you make this number and this number the same? It's very easy. You multiply proportion statement number 2 by 2. I want to multiply proportion statement 2 by 2, okay? So originally it's ratio 2 to 5, now it becomes 4 to 10. So now because this number 4 and this number 4 are the same, right? So now we can compare A, B, and C directly. So the ratio of A, B, and C is 3 to 4 to 10. This 4 is common. We know that the ratio of A to B is 3 to 4. So if this is 4, then this definitely is 3. And we also know that the ratio of B to C is 4 to 10. With this value fixed at 4, we know that this must be 10. So the ratio of A to B to C is 3 to 4 to 10. Okay? So we have found the ratio of A to C, which is 3 to 10. But we haven't answered the question yet because the question is asking us to find the ratio of A squared to C squared. So how can we go from this step to this step? It's actually very easy. You just need to square the numbers. The ratio of A to C is 3 to 10. Then the ratio of A squared to C squared will be 3 squared to 10 squared, which is 9 to 100. If you have a hard time understanding how I can do this, how I can find the ratio of A squared to C squared by simply squaring 3 and 10, I can show you quickly. The proportion statement can actually be written in two formats. This is one of the format. The second format is like this. A over C is equal to 3 over 10. So what this is representing is exactly the same as what this proportion statement is representing. It is only a different format, but they represent the same thing. As your goal is to find A squared over C squared, then what we have to do is we square both sides. Okay? So after squaring both sides, A over C squared becomes A squared over C squared. And this becomes 9 over 100. Okay, so we're writing the format of this proportion statement again back into this format. Then A squared to C squared is equal to 9 to 100. Okay, which is the same as this. Okay, so that's your answer. Now let's take a look at example number 2. You are given two pieces of information. The first piece of information is $1 is equivalent to 7.8 Hong Kong dollars. So it's giving you the exchange rate among US dollars and Hong Kong dollars. And the exchange rate is like this. The question also tells you that 1,000 Japanese yen is equivalent to 53.3 Hong Kong dollars. Okay? So the question is asking you to find out how many Japanese yen are equivalent to 50 US dollars. Although the question looks a little bit complicated, you can find the answer by using an approach very similar to that I've given for example number 1. Here, you have three variables, USD, HKD, and JPY. So why don't we draw out three columns like what we did for example number 1. This time the three columns are USD, HKD, and JPY. Okay? The first piece of information, 1 USD is equivalent to 7.8 Hong Kong dollars. So 1 USD is equivalent to 7.8 Hong Kong dollars. The second piece of information, 1,000 JPY is equivalent to 53.3 Hong Kong dollars. So 53.3 Hong Kong dollars is equivalent to 1,000 JPY. So here we have two proportion statements. I call this number 1 and this number 2. So same as how I answered example number 1. For this example here, you want to find a column that has more than one number. So in this case, HKD, okay, this column has more than one number. But we want to make these two numbers to be the same. How can we make them to be the same? It's actually quite easy. All you have to do is multiply this 7.8 by 53.3 and multiply this by 7.8. Multiply proportion statement number 1 by 53.3. Okay? So multiply this by 53.3. The USD column becomes 53.3. And this HKD column becomes 7.8 times 53.3. So for proportion statement number 2, we want to multiply this by 7.8. Multiply by 7.8. Okay? So this becomes 53.3 times 7.8. And this becomes 1,000 times 7.8, which is 7,800. So now we can take a look at this column again, HKD. This value 7.8 times 53.3 is exactly the same as this, 53.3 times 7.8. So we can do a comparison of USD, HKD, and JPY directly. And it is 53.3 to 53.3 times 7.8 to 7,800. So after knowing the ratio of USD to HKD and JPY, I can do this. I know the ratio of USD to JPY is 53.3 to 7,800 is equal to 50 USD to X. So after you have this proportion statement, how do you find X? It is actually related to my tip number 2. Outside is equal to inside. What is the meaning of that? The meaning is, if you think of this equal sign as the center, what's the outside? The outside are the two numbers that are furthest away from this equal sign. So 53.3 and X, they belong to the outside. Okay? And the inside are the numbers that are closest to the center, that are closest to this equal sign. So these two numbers, 7,800 and 50, they are the inside. If you multiply the numbers that belong to the outside and you multiply the numbers that belong to the inside, they must be the same. That's what I meant by outside is equal to inside. So 53.3 times x, okay, which are the outside numbers multiplied together, is equal to 7800 times 50. Okay, so now we solve for x, which is equal to 7317. 7317. Okay, and that's your answer.